Escalated industrial action hits Grenada's utility companies. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, January 4. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. The Technical and Allied Workers Union, TAU, in Grenada is threatening to increase industrial action against the National Water and Sewerage Authority, NWASA, over the company's failure to regularize temporary workers who've been on the books for over a decade. The union has been locked in battle with NWASA over the issue since 2014. A week before Christmas, the union took strike action, which has been continuing since. And on Thursday, the industrial action escalated, with the union calling out its members from other utility companies in solidarity. General Secretary of TAU is Andrew Lewis.
We called out a limited amount of our members, only from 4 specific workplaces: Grenlec, Airports Authority, Bus Terminus, and Port Authority. Limited amount of workers, but the turnout was even beyond expectation. So they came out in solidarity. And this is just a demonstration of where we are at and the type of solidarity that we'll be prepared to go into. Because we did not seek to disrupt in any significant way the operations of any of the companies. This is not a fight against the company or the public, but basically it is a struggle to make sure the workers are treated fairly.
Lewis told CMC News on Thursday afternoon that although the company says it's willing to make the workers permanent, it's asking the union to forgo a number of benefits that would have accrued to the workers, including increased pension for retirees commensurate with salary increases. Lewis says the union is not prepared to do that.
The company basically wants to ensure that they find a way around the labor code by putting in a time frame of 2 years before you can make someone permanent, where our collective labor agreement says that the probationary period for employees should be 3 months. So basically this is where we are at, and as we have indicated, it is not something that we will want to do, but it is something we will have to do. If this matter continues to remain unresolved, we would then have to escalate the industrial action beyond just these 4 workplaces and beyond just marching in the streets.
Lewis said the union will go as far as is necessary to obtain permanent status for the workers.
These workers have lost tremendously over the years. They have not been able to have a meaningful life in terms of doing something on a long-term basis, because most financial institutions will not entertain any long-term loan with them. So guys who have worked for 15 and 20 years and 10 years has been having their contracts renewed every year. So it as though they have been working for 21-year periods. And it is just totally unfair.
Meanwhile, NWASA says it's disappointed with the way the union is handling the matter. In a statement issued on Wednesday, the sole supplier of water on the island said it made an offer to the union, which it has not accepted. NWASA offered to make all contract workers with more than 2 years of service permanent, with an option to ensure that such persons do not lose recognition for any year of service for which gratuity was not paid. The company says it's extremely disappointed the matter remains unresolved, and despite having made a significant shift in its position in the spirit of compromise. In a recent sitting of the Senate, head of NWASA's negotiating team and chairman of the board, Christopher Diali, told legislators the company is prepared to make all contract workers permanent, but not in the manner the union is asking.
Never had a discrimination issue. All our workers on contract, as I said, there was no violation. They were paid their gratuity, they were paid, given their holidays, or given everything. You may argue that when we make them tenured, they need to now fall into special areas of vacation, fall into special areas as it relates to years of service, how that impacts their pension, how it impacts vacation, how it impacts if we have to give them a letter to go to get a visa, and we recognize in the years of service. How do we do that, and so on. There is difficulty, well, not difficulty. There is a stalemate between what the union would like us to do and what we are offering to do. And we are saying that we are going to recognize the years of service of these contract workers, the various issues relating to vacation and so on, but there's a way we want to do it. We are not going retroactive. That is what we're saying.
And the Jamaica Teachers Association, the JTA, is warning of possible industrial action next week after the Ministry of Finance failed to improve on its 6% wage increase offer during negotiations on Wednesday. Cabinet is expected to discuss the wage issue next Monday, and JTA President Georgia War Richard says the teachers have given the government until 5 p.m. that day to come up with a better offer. She reported that while favorable conditions were given to some areas of discussion during Wednesday's meeting, the issue of percentage increase was not addressed. War Richard says the teachers are fed up with government's delay tactics. Meantime, the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, JCTU, the umbrella group representing thousands of public sector workers, has scheduled a press conference for Friday to outline its position to the offer and its plan of action to press for a more acceptable wage increase. The government has insisted it cannot increase its offer because that would impair its ability to achieve the wage to GDP target of 9%, which is in keeping with the country's agreement with the International Monetary Fund. But in a statement on Wednesday night, the JCTU said it plans to step up the pressure on the Andrew Holness-led administration to come better. Still in Jamaica, police have launched an investigation into a criminal network suspected of shipping arms and ammunition into the island. 3 Haitian nationals and 2 locals, including a businessman at whose home an M16 rifle was seized last night, have been arrested in connection with the racket. This followed the seizure of more than 300 assorted rounds of ammunition and millions of dollars in cash during 2 operations conducted between Tuesday and Wednesday. Assistant Commissioner Clifford Chambers told RJR News that the police know where the guns are coming in, and he says investigators are trying to determine whether the criminal network is behind the importation of illegal guns into the parish of Clarendon. Caribbean countries will have to quickly develop their that's their priorities, as Europe begins the process of negotiating a new agreement with the African, Caribbean and Pacific group of countries to replace the Cotonou Agreement that expires in 2020. And that's according to ACP Secretary General Dr. Patrick Gomes, who says the European Commission has already started providing its members with their proposals to consider ahead of the negotiations. The Cotonou Agreement is a treaty between the European Union and the ACP that was signed in June 2000 in Cotonou. It is regarded as the most comprehensive partnership agreement between developing countries and the EU. In an interview with CMC News, the Guyana-born Gomes said the proposals will form the basis for the EU negotiating memorandum to be exchanged with the 79-member ACP group in May, and that the negotiations would begin in Brussels over the coming weeks.
We on our side in the ACP will be working on how we want to shape our negotiating mandate around 3 levels. The first level is the broad context internationally, where we want to see the Sustainable Development Goals as the overall framework, ending poverty, gender equality, food security, ocean governance, etc., all 17 goals as a framework in which we are engaging in this agreement.
The ACP head told CMC the agreement is helpful because there will be an EU-Caribbean compact among 3 pillars, and Gomes said those pillars will fit within an overarching foundation of general principles and some strategic priorities. He said the Caribbean has to pay great attention to its strategic priorities.
ACP, we've identified 3 strategic pillars or priorities. 1, linking trade with investment, services and industrialization. We're not going any longer for the single commodity export orientation. That is part of EPA now, but we must link that with investment, services, and industrialization, because we have to get value added out of our raw material in a much more aggressive way. The second pillar is going to look at development cooperation, not so much from aid. We are not interested in aid, and in fact the Caribbean, as you know, middle-income countries are moved out of the grant assistance, but there will be other avenues to leverage what is called blending facilities with the European Investment Bank, with other resources, so that we address development cooperation related to technology transfer, to research and innovation, to enhance again our capacity, both organizational capacity, but also capacity of our raw materials.
Gomes said the last pillar is the contentious area of political dialogue and advocacy. Still to come in Caribbean Newsline, calls for hurricane-displaced Barbudans to be evicted from what was to be temporary accommodation at the Sir Vivian Richards Cricket Stadium. That story and more after the break. Do stay with us.
Did you know that a strategy has been developed to help improve the region's education and human resources?
You didn't? Well, the HID strategy, as it is called, will guide CARICOM in how it delivers quality education and training to the people of the region.
The strategy has been crafted by a group of experts called the HRD Commission.
Consultations have been done across the region to get your input.
Do you know that none of us will be left behind?
The HRD strategy is important to all of us, students, parents, and employers. It will prepare the region, especially the youth, for the 21st century economy and society.
The HRD strategy, unlocking Caribbean human potential.
Members of the British reggae group UB40 have been shooting a music video in Antigua as part of their efforts to raise money for hurricane relief in the Caribbean. Ali Campbell is performing a fourth rendition of the 1998 hit Come Back Darling. The band members said they were approached because of their strong links to the Caribbean, and Campbell, Astro and Mickey Virtue, the members present for filming, has as much of an affinity with the Caribbean as they do with their native Birmingham.
We continue in Antigua and Barbuda, where Director of the National Office of Disaster Services, Fillmore Mullings, is calling for calm after increased tensions between Barbudans and staff at the Sir Vivian Richards Cricket Stadium. On Tuesday, a dispute between a female stadium employee and a Barbudan woman sheltering at the stadium in the wake of Hurricane Irma turned physical. As a result, all the workers called in sick on Wednesday and are demanding that residents of the sister isle be removed. The Barbudans were given a deadline of December 31 last year to leave the stadium, but some of them are resisting the order to move. The authorities say they need the stadium to be cleared to begin preparation for upcoming international cricket this year. We get more in this ABS News report.
Unease has settled in at the stadium with the deadline for the Barbudan residents to move upon them. Stadium manager Conliffe Phillips says one member of staff went down to the laundry room in the basement and was told by the Barbudan not to return there.
She went back down and she was accosted in the elevator, and there was a little scuffle, and she was held there for a while until I went down. When I went down, I could not really talk to anybody because nobody was listening. Anyhow, I stood in a position between the staff member and the Barbudans. After they moved, I, let the elevator go so the staff member could go up. Police came, but the Barbudans were upstairs with a lot of noise, cursing some staff members and so on. And so this morning I got a number of calls and a number of text messages from staff members saying that they're sick.
Minister with responsibility for the stadium, the Honorable EP Chet Green, further expanded on the conduct exercised by residents at the stadium.
Today I have no staff at the stadium. All my workers, even the groundsmen, have down tools because yesterday some Barbadian threatened to shoot workers. They were pelting stones and persons were in typical market scene bearing their buttocks and that kind of thing. I mean, it's just unfortunate they had to come to this. But you understand why we have to really take some immediate and drastic actions to deal with the situation.
Philip explained how this action is hampering the operations there.
It is hampering the operations because we're in the process of preparing for cricket games coming later this month into next month, and so it is going to really throw us back a bit. But I think while we have the Barbadians out, then we can start to work in earnest.
The authorities are hopeful that there is no escalation, as all try to make the best of a unique set of circumstances.
Meanwhile, the NODS director says misunderstanding caused the delay in the transition of some residents. He says preparations are being made to have them accommodated elsewhere. Mullins says Barbudans will go back to the sister isle while some will remain in Antigua. He's giving the assurance that plans are in place to have the relocation completed by January 5th.
It was complicated when there was a misunderstanding when the Minister Joseph, who is the chairman of the Cabinet Subcommittee for the Barbados Relief, indicated that those at the Anchorage Inn would have until the 5th. Those in the stadium took it to mean that their deadline was extended as well. However, there have been some challenges. We are in the final stages of preparing the nurses' hostel.
A former Minister of Foreign Affairs who also served as President of the Senate has been appointed as St. Lucia's new Governor General. Prime Minister Alan Chastanet on Thursday announced the appointment of Emmanuel Neville Sinak effective January 1st. Sinak will take the oath of office at an installation ceremony on January 12. He succeeds Dame Pearlie Louise, who was the first woman to hold the office in St. Lucia and the country's longest-serving Governor General, having served in the position for 20 years. She resigned at the end of last year. Sinak is an elderly statesman who is highly respected in the legal fraternity. He retired from active political service in 2006. In Nevis, former Premier Joseph Parry has announced his intention to step down as leader of the Nevis Reformation Party in the next few weeks after the party lost the Nevis Island administration poll late last month. He said on Wednesday that it's important that he give the party the opportunity to organize its transition period to, and I quote, have a smooth movement from the present situation to one that will strengthen the party for the future, end of quote. Parry, who served as Premier from 2006 to 2013, was the only successful candidate of the NRP in the December 18th Nevis Island administration election that was won by the Concerned Citizens Movement headed by Mark Brantley. He said he was satisfied with the campaign run by the NRP, even though the party lost the election. But the people made their choice and the results had to be accepted. However, he also disclosed that one of his party's defeated candidates, Roberto Hector, has indicated he will challenge the election results in Charlestown. Parry says that both Hector and the party believed there were some irregularities in the electoral office and elsewhere to warrant his objection and going to court on the matter. And ahead of Newsline Sport, West Indies head coach says his side has some soul-searching to do after their crushing defeat by New Zealand. Stay with us. Sport is next.
Did you know that a strategy has been developed to help improve the region's education and human resources?
You didn't? Well, the HID strategy, as it is called, will guide CARICOM in how it delivers quality education and training to the people of the region.
The strategy has been crafted by a group of experts called the HRD Commission.
Consultations have been done across the region to get your input.
Do you know that none of us will be left behind?
The HRD strategy is important to all of us, students, parents, and employers. It will prepare the region, especially the youth, for the 21st century economy and society.
The HRD strategy, unlocking Caribbean human potential.
After 20 hard-fought laps, French had to settle for a close second.
Billy's been fast all week. You know, he showed pace early on, and we actually had to fight a little bit for our setup, but I think we nailed it in the final, but it was just close. You know, I couldn't quite get close enough to pass him. I drove it 110%, but, you know, congrats to him, and it's good for him.
French now turns his attention to getting ready for his 2018 debut in the F4 US Championship powered by Honda at VIR in April.
With your meditation eye. You never give up more than what we can bear. The youths them a work, see them fear here. A justice now what we sound it here.
It's the bad examples we sometimes set, and now every ghetto youth man seems.
For the whole of my life, I wonder if I could take you home tonight. Holding on.
Head coach Stuart Law says West Indies has some soul-searching to do after suffering a crushing 119-run defeat at the hands of New Zealand in Wednesday's final T20 International to end the 8-match tour without a single win. The Caribbean side lost both tests by healthy margins and were whitewashed 3-0 in the one-day international series before going down 2-0 in the 3-match T20 series. The only match in which they escaped defeat was the second T20 on New Year's Day, which was rained out after 9 overs. Law said, and I quote, "It was a pretty disappointing tour. New Zealand played good, disciplined cricket, but we fell short. We need to do a lot of hard work, planning and understanding, and that means some soul searching by looking in the mirror and asking if we gave it everything to change a game, get into a game and win a game. It's not just going to happen." End of quote. The Windies were also without experienced players like Darren Sammy, Dwayne Bravo and Lyndall Simmons, all of whom were members of the World Cup winning side in 2016 in India. Law said the late withdrawal of some experienced players had hurt the West Indies. Meantime, Law says Chris Gayle's failure in the series did not reflect the quality of the player. The 38-year-old managed scores of 22 and 4 in his 2 one-day appearances while mustering 12 and 0 in his 2 T20 international outings. Law says Gayle didn't click in the series, noting that he had a viral infection in the one-dayers, and while T20 is probably his best format, he didn't get the starts he wanted. Gayle is the most experienced player in the West Indies limited overs setup with 275 one-day internationals and 55 T20 internationals under his belt. Gayle has already indicated he wants to contest next year's 50 overs World Cup in England. Well, West Indies have slipped to 5th in the ICC T20 rankings following their defeat to New Zealand in the 3-match series. They began the series 4th but lost 5 points to now sit on 115 points and are below 4th-placed England, who they beat in the final of the T20 World Cup in 2016. Since capturing the T20 World Cup, the Windies have now lost 9 of their last 17 outings, including a very full series against a high-ranked nation. Still in cricket, Barbados Pride and TNT Red Force picked up commanding leads on the opening day of their matches when round 8 of action in the regional 4-day competition began on Thursday. A century from Roston Chase put Pride in the driver's seat as they ended on 296 for 9 in their first innings. Chase put on 114, which included 11 fours and 2 sixes. He was ably assisted by Justin Graves, who had a polished knock of 60 from 94 balls. Left-arm spinner Larry Edward was the pick of the bowlers. He had figures 3 for 71, while DeLon Johnson, Sherman Lewis and Shane Shillingford picked up 2 wickets each. At Queen's Park, Leeward Islands Hurricanes are 36 for 3 in their reply to TNT Red Force first innings total 222 all out. Devon Thomas will return to the crease on 8. Opening batsman Mohsin Hodge was dismissed on 11, while Kieran Powell chipped in with 15. TNT's total was propelled by a sensible knock from Tion Webster, who top scored with 38, while Jeremy Solozano finished on 37. Medium pacer Jeremy Louis and off-spinner Shino Berridge picked up 4 wickets each. And the sports authorities in Guyana are confident the country will get the nod as one of the official host nations for this year's Women's T20 World Cup. Guyana has put in a bid for the government-owned National Stadium to host matches during the November 3rd to 24th showpiece, and it believes the odds are in its favor. Director of Sport Christopher Jones said the fact the stadium is owned by government and has no branding on it puts Guyana in a position where it can very likely be one of the 4 to host the Women's International World Cup Cup. The National Stadium at Providence was one of 11 venues inspected by the International Cricket Council last November in preparation for the upcoming tournament. Venues in Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Antigua and St. Kitts were also visited by the ICC team. It emerged last month that two of the region's major cricketing nations, Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, were set to miss out as venues after failing to submit bids. 8 countries, South Africa, England, Australia, India, New Zealand, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and title holders West Indies have already qualified for the showpiece. And finally, Bahamian top swimmer Farion Cooper is aiming to claim his spot on the national team preparing for this year's CAC Games in Colombia. The American collegiate athlete has been making waves with his teammates at Howard University in Washington. Christopher Saunders of ZNS Sports spoke with Cooper, who shared some of his plans ahead of his season abroad.
Howard University Bison and Barracuda Swim Club standout Farion Cooper came home to Nassau for the winter break on a Friday night. Saturday morning, he was in the one place he loves to be, the pool. He had a little break, but is now getting ready to hit his collegiate goals for this year.
I've been hitting a lot of personal bests, seasonal bests. We did very well at our mid-season champs. Last year we came 8th, and this year we placed in 1st for the men's team side. So I think we've been doing very well as a team and individually.
Farion has hit a personal best in the 200 back, 50 free and 100 free, and he has some big goals for their Coastal Collegiate Sports Association conference meet this year.
My goal for this year is to make a final in the 200 IM and the 100 and 200 backstrokes, and also to help my relay team to come within the top 5 at the meet.
That's the spot. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Grow your business or promote your event through the services offered by the Caribbean Media Corporation and Carib Vision. Our distribution provides a platform on cable, terrestrial television, and websites. We cover carnivals and events from across the region. We can bring your event live and alive to the world. For music makers, program producers, businesses, we can expand your reach to in excess of 2 million households daily. Our other services include news updates to enhance your media products, studio space for program and development. We can facilitate the launch of new products and services and training. Contact us and we will help you unleash your creative ability, develop products and services, and provide the medium to watch them grow. Contact Loretta Skeet at cmccaribbean.com or call her 1-246-467-1044 or 1-246-253-3889. Call and book your carnival or event today.
Again, the major developments of this day: escalated industrial action hits Grenada's utility companies, while teachers in Jamaica threaten industrial action. And in sport, West Indies head coach Stuart Law says the Caribbean side has some soul-searching to do after suffering a 119-run defeat at the hands of New Zealand in the final T20 International. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, log on to CarnaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching. Do have yourselves a good night.